Hi everyone and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a very fun and special 12x12 scrapbook layout with you. This one's going to be using some mixed media and some florals, and I really enjoyed this layout. To get started, I've just traced a circle in the middle of my page. I just used the lid of one of my containers for this, and then I'm going to be taking some white gesso and I'm going to prime the middle of my page with this. I'm also doing this on an extra piece of cardstock, as I will be using that for my final background later on in the video. So now I'm just going to dry that gesso using my heat tool, and I do dry both sides of the paper just so that I can make sure that I'm going to have as little warping as possible. I am using pretty thick cardstock, but I just like to use that as some insurance anyway. I'm then going to be taking my periwinkle blue Dylusions paint, and I'm just using the same brush that I used for my gesso, and I'm just going to sweep that quite roughly over the middle of the page. I do build this up with quite a few layers, and then I will go around and trim the edges to make them a little bit nicer. But I love this colour, it's beautiful, and it really went well with the photo that I wanted to document. The photo and this layout is going to be celebrating my brother and my niece's relationship. My brother's doing an amazing job at being a single father to my niece, and so I really wanted to document a picture that was special to them. They were both recently in a wedding, and so it's a beautiful photo, and I thought it definitely was needing to be scrapbooked. Back to my layout, I'm going to be using my metal edged ruler, and I'm just going to be ripping off the edges of that cardstock. I did think I was going to be backing it onto this gold and white paper, but when I started piecing some of the items I knew I wanted to use, it just didn't fit really well. So I will go back and use that second piece of white cardstock that I did in the beginning. But first, before that, I'm just using that same lid I traced earlier to trace the circle back into the centre of my layout, and then I'm going to be taking my blush Heidi Swapp Colour Shine and adding some splatters all around the edge, and then I'm going to also be taking the periwinkle blue Dylusions spray and adding some splatters around the edge as well with that. This is only going to be very subtle and very gentle. This is going to be the base of my wreath pattern that I'm going to be having. So as you can see, I'm dabbing up some of the ink. There's only going to be a very small amount, and it doesn't really show through, but it's to really help me know where I want to place things at this point. Moving on now to my photo and the cluster that I want to have behind it. So I'm using my trusty double-sided sticky tape as always, and I've actually got some of these 4x6 cards which came from a Project Life mini kit, and I've got this beautiful paper pad which I've recently picked up from Hobbycraft, and it has this gorgeous navy floral pattern. So I'm just going to use a very small amount of that, and I actually used a piece where I'd punched out circles from it and it worked perfectly, so that was definitely a bonus. I'm then going to back it onto this very light pink 4x6 and just trim off the excess, and then I'm going to trim off a small amount of the darker one eventually, but first I'm going to stick it onto this beautiful floral piece. And this is actually the cover of a notebook that I had. The notebook on the inside got ruined, and so I decided that I couldn't let this beautiful cover go to waste, so I'm just going to use that as one of my layers behind my photo, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful and it goes perfectly with the flowers which I'm also going to be using on this layout. I will try again to use that gold and white paper, and I did think of using just a tiny amount in the background, but I just really couldn't get on with it, so I know now I will be sticking with the plain white cardstock. I'm now going through the botanical ephemera from the new Maggie Holmes Flourish collection, and I'm just separating into two piles: flowers which I think I could use for this, and then flowers which are either too big or they just won't fit right, and I'm going to be placing those in a rough wreath shape. And I'll add my photo back on, and then we can work on the finishing touches and adding a spot for journaling, as I knew that I definitely wanted to tell the story behind this photo. Going back to using my double-sided sticky tape as always, I'm just sticking my photo cluster on top of the journaling spot which we're going to make, and I think it's a great way of using up those Project Life cards that perhaps you wouldn't otherwise use, or you just don't know how to use. Chop them up, make them work for you. I really love the colours of pink that I have, and I only have those in those card forms, and I'd rather have them used than sat in a box. I'm now going through my resin flowers. Most of these are roses of different sizes, and I'm just picking out mostly ones that are in the pinks. So I have a very light peachy pink, a cerise pink, and then like a soft blush pink, and I'm just using different variations of the same colours in the different sizes. And then I also have these paper blooms, which I've had for absolute years, and they just look so beautiful sometimes tucked under something else, or like bent up like with the petals shaped. So I'm just going to be placing one of those in each of my little clusters, and then I'm going to tip everything aside, and then we're going to stick the background down and then get to work putting all of these properly in place. I'm going to be just using my normal double-sided sticky tape to stick this mixed media piece down. I will add a few tiny attacher staples onto the corners, and all of my flowers which I'm going to be adding on will be using my tacky glue. The ones from the Maggie Holmes Flourish collection have all just been stuck down using double-sided sticky tape, but I know that for the resin ones using a liquid glue works best, and also I like the way that it gives them a little bit of texture as well, because they are all different heights and sizes, and it just works best for keeping those on my layouts. So as you can see, I'm just going around and attaching those, and some of them have moved and some of them are slightly different colour combinations, but that's fine with me. I really love the way that this is coming together and all of those colours on there together, and I think it's okay to use blue and like a lilac-y with a girl, and then it's okay to use the pinks for a girl. My brother is a man, and I'm, you know, using lots of pink on a layout about him, but it fits perfectly with this photo, so I decided I was just going to go for it. I'm then going to be taking my little shimmer dots that I have here, and these were just a cheapie from eBay that I unfortunately can't find any longer, but they're really beautiful. They're tiny little dots, and they're white colour, but they're so shimmery and they're just so pretty and add a perfect little touch. So I'm just going to be placing some of those all around the wreath part of the page, and then I'm going to be moving on to my journaling. I am making sure to dry this throughout using my heat tool, just as it helps speed up the glue, and as I'm moving the layout around, it stops things falling off if they're not quite dry. I decided I was going to add my title before doing my journaling, and so I'm using two different alphas. These navy ones are from Studio Calico, and I like the way that they're a capital font, but they're not so big and they're really streamlined, and so I've just put "and her daddy," and then with these white glittery thickers I'm going to spell out a princess so that the title reads "A Princess and Her Daddy." She's very much my brother's princess and she absolutely loves him, so I just wanted to have a title that sort of represented that without being too mushy. I then decided that I wanted to put something next to where the doily is. It just needed something to finish off that cluster on the bottom, so I found this little die cut that I had that says "We are family," and well, obviously they are family, but I just loved it and I loved the sentiment, so I decided I would stick that on and add that there. Again, just using a piece of double-sided sticky tape, and it does stick fairly well even on top of that Dylusions paint. I'm then just taking a black jelly roll pen and I'm just going to be writing in where they were and why they were there and the year, and then that's going to be it for that part. And I will just add some final splatters. So again, I'm taking the periwinkle blue from Dylusions, and I do find that if you add it on as splatters, this does come out quite a lot darker than the paint, but if you dab it up, they come up quite true to colour. I did make a boo-boo on the bottom. I managed somehow to smudge my splatters, so I decided that I would give a go at doing that on the top as well. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll see how I go. And then I just added some tiny attacher staples on both of the corners, and that's going to be the layout finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. It was so fun to just create something pretty and to preserve memories of my family as well as me. So I will be back soon with another video on my channel. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you around and be able to share some more projects with you. I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching.